afternoon, everyone, or morning, or evening, wherever you are. I'm recording this after Easter, so hope everyone had a great holiday weekend, or if you don't celebrate that, just had a great weekend in general. We're here to talk about Dragon issue number 2. A while back, I'm not sure how long ago now, we looked at Dragon number 1, and I know I wanted to do more of these. Well, I thought it would be a nice kind of palette cleanser, something a little bit different, kind of a little standalone action. So I thought that's what we do today, and I don't have any notes. So let's just get to it, shall we? The one thing I noticed here, and we'll go through. I'm not saying we're going to read through everything, but certainly the majority of it, and then at least we'll try to pick out all the good stuff. This one I noticed has a Alchemist class in it, so that might be interesting. Timothy Kask gives us an editorial note. Welcome to the pages of the fastest growing magazine in the hobby. All right. It's just, what do you want to see in the future? What did you like from number 1 and number 2? These are all questions that are way too late to answer, as this was published in August of 1976. This might be interesting here. Monkish Combat in the Arena of Promotion, by John M. Seaton and playtested by the Missouri Mercenary Group, a division of the McHenry Mercenary Group. I have no idea what that is, but the Missouri Mercenaries have checked this out for us. All right, so let's see what Mr. Seaton has to say here. Since the conception of the monk as a D&D character, I wondered about the promotional combat system for them. I don't know what that means, promotional. As I am a novice in the martial arts, Nasi Goju Ryu, I figured that the monkish advancement system would be something like the advancement system used today. Assuming that the only thing that monks with appropriate points needed to advance had yet to do would be exhibit their prowess over the current master, quote unquote, I devised a very simple combat system which is based on the en garde rules. Some of the things in the system may seem strange or wrong to experienced karatakas. Or is that karatakas? I'm not sure. But for a game system, this is simple enough for everyone. To enter the arena for combat, multiply strength and constitution, then add 10 times your level to get damage points taken. All right, so we're not using hit points. We're taking strength, con, multiplying them, and also adding your level times 10. It's a big number, it seems like. Am I thinking that correctly? Because even if you have 10 and 10, which would be just average con, average strength, that's already is 100. And then if you're level 1, you'd have 110. Let me know if I'm reading this correctly. But that's how much, essentially, damage you can take. Okay, so we got that part. Now, we add our strength, dex, half our intelligence to get the damage points given. I don't know why they put them in the kind of passive, because it makes it sound like you're taking it and you've been given it and you've taken it, and then, I don't know. Seems like maybe a better word could be. Whatever. This is a long time gone. All right. We have DPG, damage points given. This is the amount of damage you inflict with a normal, quote unquote, blow. When you have DPT and DPG, then you're ready to approach the mat for combat. And to get this, go back to this. So if we, let's say our average fighter, then average monk, first level monk, calling that 110 damage they can take. I'm just going to use 10s for all the stats. So if you add your strength, your dexterity, and half your intelligence to get how much damage you can then inflict on someone, we would get 10 plus 10, 20 plus half, 5. So we get 25. So our average first level monk could take 5 hits, right? Because 4 hits would get them to 100. They'd still have 10 over, so they'd have to take 1 more. So I guess we're saying a monk with an average first level monk could take 5 shots from another average first level monk. The combat itself takes place in the ceremonial arena under the supervision of the next highest master. The contestants approach the sands from the opposite sides of the arena and bow twice, once to the past masters and once to their sensei or teacher. Then they advance to the center and stand about 4 feet away from each other. They bow to their opponents, assume their combat stance, and on signal, attack. Hey, Brian Smith, we're just looking at monkish combat in the arena of promotion, which threw me for a little bit first, but basically looking at how to handle if we were going to have monks, really kind of martial artist types, advance in some way like you would in karate, or kung fu or whatever, that you would, go through some kind of ceremonial combat to get promoted. This is giving that system. I'm still not quite sure why we just don't use the kind of to hit and sort of damage and all the and hit points that we already have, but we have two new I want to say commodities, two new currencies for this. One is the damage you could take, one's the damage you can give, and they're quite a bit higher than hit points and hit damage and bonuses. In any case, we've gotten the signal to attack. The combat consists of as many turns that it takes for one combatant to concede or die. Each turn is 10 sets long, and each set is 6 units long. This represents the combinations that a monk would use in his initial attack. Thereafter, each stop period represents new plots and plans that are formed by each player after each combat. So we get 10 sets, and maybe this stuff would make sense if you're a martial arts person. I have no experience with actually going through martial arts training or what these kind of promotional combats mean. So I don't know if this is something that's taken from there thematically, or whether they're just making this up out of whole cloth. Ryan Smith says, tournament stuff, dig it. Watch out for the leg sweep. Always watch for the leg sweep. So we get 10 sets. Each set is 6 units. Both players write 6 units of combat, then they execute, then write and fight, etc. If, after a set, it is found that a combatant is below 3/4 of their, essentially their ceremonial hit points, maybe I'll call it that, or their damage points that they can take, all their succeeding blows are at half strength. At any time between blows, a combatant may concede the battle. Combat immediately stops, and the victor is then recognized as the new or current quote-unquote master. Sometimes scrolls are given by the game master. All right. Don't tell me what to do, John M. Seaton. After the battle, it takes some little time to recover. For each 10 damage points taken, lost, a player must cure 4 light wounds. For each 50 damage points taken, a player must cure for serious wounds. For each 150 lost, a player must be wished to health. Wow. Well, I guess in terms of we went through the maths, and our first level completely average, meaning 10s across the board monk, would I think have 110 damage points available. So they couldn't even make it to the threshold to need to be wished. Spencer T, hey Spencer T, says, is that set stuff kind of like breaking down the idea of flurry of blows into a literal blow for blow? Blow for blow? Spencer, it might be. I am not sure. They have not. What's interesting, as I expected maybe a little bit more to know, or to know a little bit more, to be told a little bit more about what those things mean. Is it that we're breaking down a combat into almost putting it into slow motion, which would be kind of cool in a way? 2 monks fighting it out. This is just for promotion within a martial arts community or house, or however you want to call it. So you don't have to worry about other players. It's just these 2 monks. So why not go into slow-mo? And yeah, you could look at it like all this stuff that in real time would just seem like that flurry of blows. Now it's slowed down. But we don't know, because John M. Seaton did not tell us. But he's telling us that, this is just kind of one of those things. It looks like they're giving us these different currencies for this fight, but I kind of wish they just could have said, if they wanted it to be more impactful, just say maybe multiply your hit points times 10 or something to get these numbers, and then each 10 you've lost of this damage points equals to 1, it's equal to 1 hit point, and then you just know how low you are. Why, if you lose so much, you have to be wished to health? It just seems kind of strange. Like maybe your first level monk just has 6 hit points. So we don't really have any idea how this stuff translates to their actual hit points. So they took 100 or so of these damage points that they need a cure serious wounds to heal, but they only have 6 hit points. So I don't know. It's interesting. So if you can't get magic, you have to spend however much you lost, have that to determine the days needed to recover. So if you lost 100 DPT, you would have to rest for 50 days. And this is watered down apple cider for the working man. Cheers. I just think they could have just made things just fit in with regular healing and regular hit points. But I think we have an example here. So combat is as follows. Or no, maybe this is just more detail. If a player wishes to change an order after a unit has been read, he must make a percent roll of dexterity to do so. After a good roll, for example, you could change a kick or a strike to a block. Kicks will not work within arm's reach, and obviously a strike cannot connect outside of arm's length. I don't think that stuff's accurate. I think you can kick somebody if you're within arm's reach. It's just a different kind of kick. But maybe, you know, we have to remember, well, I don't know. I was going to say we have to remember this is from 1976, but maybe they didn't watch enough kung fu films and stuff, because I have a feeling in those movies, the guys hitting the kicks are not always outside of arm's reach. Brian Smith says, what's the exchange rate between ceremonial damage points, hit points, and Bitcoin? Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need. We need, I think it's just very funny. I mean, I think the interesting thing with this, right, is we're getting folks who are taking their house rules, they're playing it, and then they're kind of pushing it over there, right? They're sending it in. And I don't know if John FC just sent this in and they decided to publish it. I don't even know what the process was back then, but it was pretty ad hoc. So you see a lot of stuff that I think is just going to have a lot of not anachronisms, not the word I'm looking for. Very, very interesting quirks from the particular authors. You could kick a noob in close range, otherwise you're getting tossed by an experienced opponent or something. Yeah, maybe if you're. Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't know. I just don't. It's one of those things like just don't limit it. Like if you're kicking from close range, maybe that's really a knee. Maybe you're doing one of those kind of Muay Thai sort of side kicks or something. I don't know. I feel like you've got options to kick in close range. Oh no, Brian Smith. I'm not even gonna mention the V word, and you know the V word's not gonna show up in this magazine. I'm not giving you the satisfaction. All right, get back to this. So we do have the limitation on kicks. So it seems like you're writing down your moves, but we don't know exactly how these things go back and forth, but it looks like we might find out in a sec. The game master must keep track. Oh, wait a minute first. Hold on. So, okay, kicks will not work within arm's reach, and strikes cannot connect outside of arm's reach. All matches start at kicking distance, so a player must jump forward to strike at the beginning. The game master must keep track of the distance between the combatants. Fair enough. After the initial set, at least one rest must be used at each remaining set. Up to 3 of the same type kicks may be used in a row. When kicking, hands are used in 1 or 2 blocks. Note that X blocks are two-handed. When striking, both feet are grounded, except when employing an X block. Hands may both attack, or one may attack and one defend. Define which player has first strike, determine which has the highest DPT at the time. He who does strike first. Okay. If the second player dies as a result of a first strike, he gets to a return blow only if he beats his last DPT score on a percentile roll. Oh boy, it seems like that's overly complicated just a bit. The actions. To simplify things. Really? To simplify things? I divided the body into 3 main areas and assigned strikes, blocks, and kicks to cover those areas. Although some strikes and kicks are used other places. Also, first, the blocks. So I guess you can choose to block. I'm trying to figure this out. So let me go back here. All right, 10 sets of 6 units. 1 unit per the 6 has to be a rest. Did I get that right? Yeah. So when you rest, what does that mean? You're just kind of a sitting duck. So then if you have to rest on 1, then the other 5 you're going to choose one. You choose one thing. Do you choose to block or strike, or do you choose a strike and a block? Maybe you can use both. It seems like if you're kicking, you can actually use 2. Terrence says Mecha Fu. Yeah. And then Terrence also asks, are there any rules for the Chun-Li upside down panty shot spin kick? No. No, no. Or what's his name from Mortal Kombat? Like just kicking across space. Liu Kang, was that it? Who could just like kick run across the screen. All right, so we got a bunch of blocks, and then we've got some different kicks, including the sweep. We can indeed sweep the leg, Johnny. This is to trip an opponent. If it succeeds, the opponent cannot strike for 3 units. He gets up. However, any blows struck do only normal damage. Oh, and then you could try to stomp on somebody, or they say stamp, after a successful sweep. Okay, and then other things you can do, you can rest, you can jump back, you can jump forward, you can duck. And here we have a whole table. Holy moly. A whole table that is where you can find out, I guess, move versus move, what happens, including some grabs. Some things do normal damage, some things we block. So I guess you would line up. I guess you take one action. So if I jump forward, is that a back fist, BF? All right, so if I jump forward, or say Monk 1 jumps forward, and Monk 2 had chosen back fist, not very good. Or actually, even worse if they chose, what was that? What's knife? Whoops. What's knife hand? Side strike to the side, abdomen, or the head. Is that like a knife edge chop in like pro wrestling? Like, chop. All right, so you knife. If the Monk 1 knife hands and the second monk jumps forward, that's triple damage. Yeah, not too good. Terrence call. Oh yes, back to Liu Kang. Yeah, the flying bicycle kick. Exactly. Spencer says, "All right, this sounds like a super advanced monk version of rock paper scissors. Kicking, punching, blocking, jumping, resting, all pre-chosen to try and outguess your opponent." Yep, pretty much. And we got some drawings here of the different things. I mean, this is cool. Like, I think this is really cool. I like the idea, even kind of normalish combats of having some kind of rock, paper, scissors if you're in melee or something and someone does something, you can try to parry, but if this person's trying this other thing, then it's either going to work really well or work terribly depending on what the other action does. And I think we looked at that in one of the OSR Reddit roundups, looked at this Dark Souls inspired thing and doing some combat like that, which I thought was cool. The problem is it's really complicated. I don't want to say really complicated, but it's complicated in a way that, in a couple ways I think they just could have avoided. Just, if you don't want to have it, just use hit points. And I'm not sure why you just wouldn't say, hey, we're just going to use hit points. If you run out of hit points, you die as normal. And this, you can die in these things, so you have any chance. Maybe each blow does 1 damage, because you're going to have double or triple. It means you could lose, if you have 6 hit points, let's say, you get chopped. Well, that if you unfortunately jump forward into the knife hand, you're taking 3 damage, blowy. And just do that for some of the stuff. And then maybe simplify, because I could see just high, mid, low, like a fighting game, right? You have high, mid, low, and you can block high, you can block mid, you can block low, you can punch or kick high, low, something of that nature. And then I kind of like the idea of the rock, paper, scissors, but do we need this massive table for that? I'm not sure. Terrence wants to know what the exchange rate from Gnome Cash to Bitcoin. I thought you have to ask the Bit Gnomes. The Bit Gnomes have the Bitcoins in their Bit Cash. And Gnome Cash, he is responding or referring to what's on the opposite page from this. I don't know. Did we read? I'm going to skip the Gnome Cash because I don't think we read it. So we have no context for this. Stochastic Agency. Hello, Stochastic Agency. It says the Monk's Matrix is somewhat similar to the action cards in Forbidden Lands action card combat system. Each player chooses a hidden action. Yeah, and I do, I remember that Stochastic Agency, and I do appreciate that. And I do like that maybe they have something a little bit special that they can come in and you can have that monk. It'll be kind of cool if monks to level up. And if we sprinkled these around, we say, okay, look, monks, maybe you're going to get a little bit of a discount, let's say, on whatever it is to go up levels, or maybe not, I don't know. But then before you can go up levels, you're going to have to find a monk that's a higher level of you and challenge them to this ceremonial duel, and we could have some special rules because I think it does make for a big moment. Everyone could be around the table, and assuming it doesn't take an hour to run, using cards, using something like this. Okay, I'm going to strike high, strike mid, strike low, or I'm going to block high, mid, low, right? Some kind of back and forth with what you're doing. Maybe even a couple of advanced cards. Maybe you can get some advanced cards when you go up levels, and you can have that, and that could be kind of a fun game. This, I feel like the complexity for this is maybe more than I would want, though. You know, you're only going to run it once. I don't know how often you're going to run this thing. If I guess it depends on how often they're leveling up or when you decide to have these. When you decide that your monks are going up belts, essentially. Terrence, action cards, full contact old maid. Maybe so. Brian Smith says, let's see. I think every kind of hand-to-hand D&D mechanic I've seen involves a reveal of choices and a rock, paper, scissor aspect. I think that's almost 90% of all you need. Yeah, I mean, because the rock, paper, scissors, it's really good. You just have to have, right, as long as you have one more choice and you can, you know, that kind of, having the three choices, I think for two combatants just works, because if two of them kind of counteract, then you have the one that's going to go over or whatever, right? So each one kind of going over the second one. I think it just as a system, having that kind of three it just works. And there are probably other ways to do it that are just as exciting, but I mean, I think there's a reason that kind of rock, paper, scissors as a way of determining these kinds of results. It works. And in this case, I think it's thematic because you are choosing your move, right? You're in there, two masters eyeing each other up. You can just see in the movies when they're the white beards, or they're sort of brushing, combing their beards with their hands. They're trying to figure out what technique to use. Then you could have fun with the different techniques. Maybe you don't even do it high, mid, low. You could, I don't know, it could be based on whatever technique. Tiger versus crane versus whatnot. Just a little bit complicated, but it's a cool first idea. Or, you know, and I think given the right group, you could definitely run this. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't work. It's just maybe I would see if there's a way to streamline it a bit. Ooh, Ian says their monk's going to learn the blue eyes white dragon technique. Yeah, the system definitely shows its age. It does. Yes, which is understandable, right? It would be amazing, you know, if you saw something pop out of the page in 1976 that looked like it was written, you know, yesterday on someone's blogger, OSR blog. You know, that would be shocking. We'll go. We got a couple of conclusions. Mapping the dungeons. Not sure what that is. We got Der Kriegspielers, military miniatures and accessories. Hints for D&D Judges, Part 3, The Dungeons. All right, this should be good. This is by Joe Fisher. Dungeon Master Masterclass. Hey, DMMC says, the issue is, imagine your monk is trying to level. The DM brings out this matrix and super complex system you don't understand, and if you fail, you can't level. Ouch. Yeah. I mean, that is a downside, right? Which is why I was thinking maybe you give them a discount. And you could, it's kind of that thing that maybe you get either, well, the other was either you give them a discount or maybe you give them some a little extra oomph on the other side of it. Or maybe you get part of your level, but you don't get the belt, so that you have the abilities, but you're not technically seen as more than a brown belt until you go through it. There are probably some ways you can figure it out where you're not overly damning them for a single system that they're using only one time in the game. But I would be happy as having some kind of rock, paper, scissors for a lot of things. I think I like that in the in that Dark Souls inspired mechanic from a few weeks ago now. As long as it can be done kind of quickly, fast, you know. But yeah, this is something that you would do kind of downtime, right? The wizard's got a couple of weeks. Now you have some time, and that's why I think it's probably double damning in this case, that they say, hey, all that damage you take, and it's gonna take you 2 months to recover. It's like, isn't that adding insult to injury? I think that's where you could kind of, maybe it makes sense, maybe not, but it could be streamlined up a bit, because it is kind of cool in the one hand. Like when you, you know, what is it? When you get to be an arch druid, you have to go hunt down the one arch druid and convince them to give up the title. Otherwise you can't be that. It's kind of neat. I like the flavor from it, but you want to either make it worthwhile, make sure it's not overly penalizing, or, you know, figure out how to make it work without it becoming a chore. So here we go, back to Hints for D&D Judges, Part 3, The Dungeons by Joe Fisher. For once, it is the author, not the judges, having trouble getting started. 4. When it comes to ideas for improving the dungeons, the possibilities are endless. So, in order, I will try to deal with the following areas: entrances, traps, treasures, mapping, and monsters. Again, I hope this article will help your judging improve. Good castles are always in demand. When judges of D&D, new and old alike, think of an entrance to the dungeons, the greater percentage think of an old ruined castle somewhere outside their town. And many of this same group have the mistaken impression that there is only one entrance to every dungeon. Both these ideas are wrong. True, the famous game of Gary Gygax and Rob Kuntz is built around and under Greyhawk Castle, but this is far from being the only entrance. Besides the castle, I have discovered an entrance through an old dry cistern, and another entrance that is under a pool of quicksand, and even an entrance in a simple hole in the ground. In other games, I have discovered the dungeons were under the town, or under the town guard's barracks, and even under one of the peasants' hovels. So as far as entrances go, it makes no difference where you put it or how you disguise it, as long as the dungeons are good. But the entrances can make the castle even more interesting. The most fun involved in planning a new level is laying out friendly little traps for the players to find. These should be evenly spread out in the dungeons. If concentrated in one area, the players will eventually ignore that part of the dungeons, and good traps will go to waste. And not used too often. Players tend to stop adventuring in games that have more traps than treasure. Traps don't always have to be harmful. Sometimes it's possible for a trap to also be a treasure, depending on a die roll. A good example of this is a party, upon entering a room in the dungeons, finds a pile of bones in one corner. Discovering nothing else of interest, the leader decides to take the time to reconstruct the skeleton. Once put together, the skeleton can do one of 4 things: attack, serve the party until destroyed, lead to the nearest unguarded treasure, or lead to his master, who happens to be a high-level magic user. Or the skeleton can do nothing except take up a lot of time, in which the judge can roll dice for more wandering monsters. That's a really cool encounter, actually. I mean, I just dig that a lot. I'm gonna have to steal just that bit, because that just it's awesome. And I think you could roll dice for those outcomes, or you could tie those outcomes to, say, alignment issues. Let's say this was a chaotic necromancer, right? And that's a chaotic skeleton. So who puts it together? If a chaotic person puts the final touch, like once you've reconstructed it, whoever puts the skull, or whoever puts the skull down, or something like that, whatever is chaotic, then it does one set of things. Or if someone of law does it, then it's someone else. You could do just a ton of different things, and it's really, really clever and interesting, and something that I think a lot of groups would take for granted a bit, just a pile of bones. But I like it. Let's see what we got here. Terrence says, going to put a dungeon entrance in an outhouse one day. Hey, don't wait. Do it now. Brian Smith says, friendly little traps. I like this Bob Ross vibe. And Terrence says, I've used a solid gold anvil as a trap before. Ooh, I like that one. Any solid gold dancers to go with that solid gold anvil? Okay, one of the most popular types of traps is where the treasure or the chest it is in is the trap. Various traps can be placed on the treasure so that when touched or removed from its chest, the party can be transported with or without the treasure, or take so many dice of damage, the number of dice depending on the amount of gold pieces or the rarity of the magic, or have the item explode, or the magic that is in the treasure can be intelligent so that it keeps on trying to get back to its real owner. And when it comes to treasure chests, the author uses the following table. Well, there's just a few things there. I don't know if just like, hey, you touch this thing, take damage. But yeah, I mean, sure, the spiked chest, or explodes. I kind of like the idea of the magic in the treasure that's intelligent, so it's trying to get back to its master. But what does it assume its master is, and where is its master? Is its master in that same dungeon somewhere, or is the master somewhere else? Really fun. Or maybe even it has other. You could think of like, what does this treasure might want to do? What kind of impetus was it left with when it was put here that has, in a sense, become self-aware so that it now has a purpose? What might that purpose be? Spencer says, consider that skeleton encounter stolen. Yep, that's a good one. That is a very good one. All right, so the author, a.k.a. Joe Fisher, uses the following table for chests. Rolling D100. On a 0 to 50, it's a normal chest. On a 51 to 100 trap on the chest, go to the following table. Okay, so it's actually, we have a couple of tables here. So there's a 50% chance it's trapped or a 50% chance it's not trapped. If it is trapped, we roll percentile again on a 0 to 30. 1d4 spring-loaded daggers fire when the chest is opened. On 31 to 50, same as above, the daggers are poisoned. Yikes. 51 to 65, the poison gas is released when the chest is opened. 66 to 75, when the chest is opened, it acts as a mirror of life trapping. Oof. 76 to 85, exploding chest. If open, the chest explodes, doing 2 to 7 dice. I'm guessing 2 to 7 d6 damage. Why 2 to 7? Maybe 2d4? Or is that, I don't know. I'm not sure what that one. Doing 2 to 7 dice. I'm guessing it's d6 damage, but you're going to roll to see how many d6 you roll. That makes sense. That's what I'm going to go with. 86 to 90, when the chest is open and Enraged Spectre comes out. 91 to 95, all members within 5 feet lose 1 level of experience. Holy moly! Whew. 96 to 98, all members within 5 feet lose 1 magic item. God, it's tough. 99 to 100, the chest is intelligent. Act as if the chest is a 2nd to 9th level magic user, including spells. Ooh, boy. Price Smith says, just grab 2 to 7 dice, whatever you got. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, Terrence says D6 plus 1. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. So, yep, D6 plus 1 would do it. But I guess it's D6 plus 1, D6. I don't think it's supposed to be just 1, 2 to 7 damage. Maybe it's a typo. I don't know. Because given the other ones here, that doesn't seem like enough. Mario Smith says, whoa, the chest starts hitting you with spells. Time to get GTFO, yeah. Though the one thing you could do, so I would do with the intelligent chest, is that would be, then I would have it roll a reaction like anything else. And then that's why I would definitely want to think about what it wants. What it wants, what it needs, why the F hasn't left its location before and gone walking around. Maybe it needed to be activated by life, being touched by a life form. Other traps can be intelligent gold pieces. They have the nasty habit of screaming when taken from the room they were found in, which draws all sorts of monsters, or throwing themselves en masse at whoever makes the mistake of opening the chest they're in. Oh, there's some good stuff there. Them screaming. Oh, that one's good. Oh my gosh, the first time that you take some loot, you put loot inside, you grab the chest opens, there's a bunch of gold, you put the gold in your pouches, and you leave the room, and all of a sudden you hear screaming coming from your pouches and your packs. Oh, then you got to try to figure out which dice are screaming and which aren't. Maybe Dispel Magic would dampen it, but maybe not. Oh my gosh. Brian Smith says, could be a mimic spellcaster. Yep. There's some great, there's some gold in here is what I want to say, but yeah, the gold, screaming gold in here. The damage caused by the gold can vary, or even more discouraging is finding out that after fighting a red dragon and losing half the party, they have won 60,000 chocolate-centered gold pieces, real value being about a copper piece each. Replacing the gold with Halloween gold foil-covered chocolate. Oh my gosh, this is good. Tara says, it's a +2 sword, but it's very traumatized. Yeah, it's like Marvin the robot, but this time Marvin the depressed longsword. And then Brian says, just gut wrench screaming FX on repeat. Yep. James Erdman of the SLWGA came up with a very interesting trap. How would you like to be in a basically lawful party intent on doing some adventuring under the ruins of a castle, only to find it guarded by a kingdom of dwarves? And when the leader of the party tries to parley with the dwarvish leader, he discovers that this dwarf kingdom happens to be chaotic and willing to kill the whole party at the drop of a copper piece. In many castles, you can find creatures that just don't seem to be of the right alignment. This makes for highly interesting playing, where it causes the player to be much more careful than they normally would have to be. Is that considered a trap? There's a kingdom of dwarves of the opposite alignment of you hanging out there. I don't know if I would consider that a trap, but it's definitely a conundrum if the party has to get down there. Brian Smith says, see how many of these you can get in your game before your players start throwing punches. Yep. Terrence calling the guy a jerk. Wow. I think, look, this is, here's the thing, though. He hasn't said so, but I would assume that identify, detect magic, dispel magic would all be very useful in those situations. So get your scrolls handy, or get your magic user on hand so you can determine some of these. Yeah, that's pretty good. If you are having trouble finding new traps, go back to your sword and sorcery type books, and you will be surprised at how much usable material there is when one looks closely. I don't doubt that at all. For example, see Clark Ashton Smith's story, The Weira of Avusul Withokwan, in his book Hyperborea. I don't recall that one, but thank you for the suggestion. It's always fun to create and use treasure that throws a party of adventurers into indecision. A personal favorite is monster gems. Monster gems are magical gems worth 500 gold pieces each. They are magical in the fact that when commanded, the gem will turn into a monster. Roll dice if rolling for a wandering dungeon monster. The trouble is that the owner might get anything from a kobold to a red dragon. Now the player character has to decide whether giving up 500 gold pieces is worth the chance of getting a kobold or goblin, which only stays a week, like all monsters created from monster gems. Also, when the monster is killed, both monster and gem are destroyed. Monster Gem is kind of a cool. I never heard of that one. That's kind of a cool thing. Let's see. Stochastic Agency says the game was played very different in 1E. It was not very kind to the stupid or impulsive. Context is king here. Yep. Though this is pre 1E. Stochastic Agency. I believe the first book of 1E came out in the next year. I want to say, or even 2 years from now. This is August of '76. I want to say the Monster Manual came out in '77 or '78. So this is. I don't even think we've hit the Holmes box yet, unless my dates are mistaken. Bryce says, I love the idea of turning gems into a little blind box. Yep. It's this monster gems is actually quite cool. It's kind of like using the summon spell from Lamentations of the Flame Princess, where you could just get all kinds of crazy stuff, and some of it just might be hostile. In this case, it doesn't seem like they're hostile. It seems like we're not going to attack you, but you just don't know. It's like, what is that Harry Potter candy where you don't know what flavor you're going to get until you eat it? You might get a kobold, you might get a dragon. Boy. Dragon. Stochastic Age says, even in Beck Me, the mentality was the same. Terrence says, this guy basically invented Pokeballs. Stochastic Age, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Stochastic Age. I guess I'm more quibbling because also Beck Me is also later. BX hasn't come out yet. The only thing at this point that I think we have is the white box, and then the expansions, or the like the Blackmore and Greyhawk supplements, because I think even the Holmes blue box is a year away, I think, unless it's coming out. But I agree with you completely. It is a very different way of playing the game. Oh, what else we have here? Thanks to members of the SLWGA, especially Mark Karowski, whose magic item is next, I can offer the following magic to add to your list. All right, so we got some magic here. Wow. Hobbit's pipe. We have to change that to Halfling's pipe at this point. The seemingly ordinary clay pipe is really a wondrous magical item. When common pipeweed is smoked, the pipe will give the user the ability to blow multicolored smoke rings at the rate of 4 per turn, and these smoke rings will go wherever ordered by their creator, moving at 4 feet. I think in this case it's inches or feet. I can't remember. 4 inches per turn, though high winds will disperse them, and lasting 1 to 6 turns. At first, this seems like a worthless ability. Consider, an evil high priest attacks a party of 3, one of which owns a pipe. He lights it and sends smoke rings around the evil high priest's head, blinding and confusing him so they can't use his spells, which the party was all too happy not to catch on the chin. Magic pipeweed, which is highly rare and only grown in the gardens of wizards, may be smoked in this pipe, and certain advantages will accrue. These will be enumerated below, usable 3 times a day. Wow, so that's a super powerful. This is one of those things I feel like I read about on the 5e boards. And people are like, you can't let that happen. That's too much. The guy wants to, can I take prestidigitation and use it to stop my evil high priest, the evil high priest, from casting spells? People would go nutso. And I would probably even say, like, that might be a little above prestidigitation's pay grade. But in this case, it's tied to a magic item, which is of the wondrous right? They say, right? A wondrous magical item. So I would say it's extraordinarily rare. So since other than that, they can only do things like just make animated little smoke circles, then why not? If you can get it into position around an evil high priest's head, I suppose I would go with it. All right, so here we have some magical pipeweeds. Pipeweed of Tranquility. This will cause all hostile creatures to refrain from attacking. Non-player characters of the smoker's party will have a +1 added to their morale. The Pipeweed of Stoning. The smoke from this weed will cause any creature within range to be turned to stone. They get a saving throw. Oh, note, however, that on any given turn, there's a 25% chance that the wind or something will be blowing the wrong way and the smoker will get stoned. A Hobbit's Pipe decreases this chance to 10%. Oh, so okay, you don't need the pipe to use these, but if you do use it with the pipe, you get a little bit. Now we have the Pipeweed of Illusion. You can basically get Phantasmal Force. The Pipeweed of Acapulco. Everyone becomes your friend. And the Ring of Magic Missiles. Oh, that's not even a pipe or weed. This is just magic missiles. You can get the Bag of Infinite Wealth and a Helm of Forgetfulness or a Ring of Infravision. Spencer T says, is there some kind of joke here that none of these effects are actually happening? Your character is just high? I think that joke is for you to make. I think these are deadly serious, Spencer T. But you could certainly have fun with the Pipeweed of Acapulco is definitely like your high. The smoker treats everyone as their friend. Nobody else is affected by that. So I would definitely say the Acapulco Pipeweed is probably the closest to like, yeah, you're high and you're just kind of giggly and everybody's your buddy. Hey, buddy. Other types of treasure that you can throw at your players are the magic of a staff of wizardry put in a ring, an unholy sword, which is just the opposite of a holy sword, a wand of fireball shaped to look like a dagger, an idol that answers yes and no questions once a week, a monster that when killed turns into a pile of gold, or an incense burner that when lit, its smoke acts as a crystal ball. I like that one. I'm not going to describe how to map out a level since this has been done already by the authors of D&D in their D&D Volume 3 entitled Underworld and Wilderness Adventures. What I do plan to do in this section is to give some ideas on areas, levels, etc. One of the most interesting adventures I've ever had dealt with mainly with the idea of what would happen if a knight in a shining... All right, I got to jump to page 26. Shining... Where's 26? A knight in shining armor, here we go, was suddenly transported aboard the Santa Maria on its way to discover America. To carry this idea further, you can create all sorts of strange areas. Have a wizard suddenly find themselves on the Normandy beaches on D-Day, a patriarch who finds himself as a stowaway on a nuclear-powered USS Nautilus on its shakedown cruise, or even a lord who finds himself on the banks of the Little Bighorn and sees a column of blue-clad cavalry figures riding towards him. One type of area I personally like to work with, and the players in my game shiver at, is underground rivers, lakes, seas, or a combination of the three. This also allows for islands where special monsters and treasure can be placed so they are hard to get at. How many parties carry boats or rafts with them? Naturally, with an area as big as a lake, sea, or river, characters are not going to be able to journey across or down in 1 or 2 turns, so special monster tables will be needed. And then he's got his own special monster tables here. Hobbit Pipeweed is serious. Just ask my mom, says Brian Smith, and then Terrence says, get enough sticky purple kush of troll slang. Could be. All right, so this table, it's a 12-sided die ranging from men to wrecked ships. We have a sub-table, I guess, for the men, going from heroes to evil high priests. And then the second sub-table has dragons, balrogs, all the way down to manticores. The third sub-table has giant crabs, giant leeches, back to men, giant snakes, dragon turtles, and crocodiles. Then there are areas like the Pool of Endless Ogres. Oh, that's a good one to visit. Where one ogre comes out of the pool every turn that adventures are in the cavern the pool is in. Or the Room of Gems, where 3 turns after the gems are taken out of the room, 50% turn into orcs and immediately begin to attack the party. I was thinking like, oh, maybe there if the pool of endless ogres was getting an ogre every turn, maybe the room of gems would be, hey, get a gem every turn. But no, in this case, the room of gems, 3 turns after you take them out of the room, half of them turn into ogres. Uh, or not ogres, orcs. Oh, I just see you're just all of a sudden you're just your sack just explodes and there's 3 or 4 orcs piled on top of each other. Brad Smith says, "Gotcha again." Yeah, that's definitely like a gotcha moment. Oh man, gems that turn into orcs. Yeah, it seems like in this guy's game, you definitely want to have detect magic on call 24/7. The room of gems filled with gems. The favorite book of the judge can be turned into parts of the castle or worlds that adventurers can be transported to, like Larry Niven's Ringworld, Tolkien's Moria, Clark Ashton Smith's Hyperborea, Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World, or Fritz Lieber's Newhan. Certain parts of maps or even single rooms and corridors can give parties problems even though no monsters are present, like a 10 by 10 room that shrinks people down so that they seem to be in a 200 by 200 foot room. Once they cross the room, they're given back their true size. This is designed to drive the map makers in the party crazy. Or a room maze that has transporters everywhere that transport the players back to the center of the maze. Or even a room that has seemingly unguarded treasures that, when touched, activate secret doors that allow hordes of hobgoblins to attack the unsuspecting players. Actually, any sort of maze, whether room, corridor, or stair maze, is fun for the judge and a headache for the players. The major problem with mazes is getting the players into it. One suggestion is to simply transport the party into the middle of the maze. Or you can have an escaping orc with a valued magic item run through a one-way door. When the party follows, they find out that they are in one end of the maze with the exit on the other side. When it comes to ordinary monsters regarding normal treasures, D&D, Greyhawk, Blackmoor, and the creature features in the Dragon have everything you need. But when it comes to those special treasures, then look to the fantasy writers like H.P. Lovecraft and his gods and demigods to help you, or the terrible sandworms of Frank Herbert's Dune. And if you can't find enough in the field of fantasy, then check out the science fiction writers of today, like Larry Niven's Puppeteers, Dixon's Dorsey, H.G. Wells' Martians, or the creatures and peoples of the Star Trek series. How would you like to be walking down a corridor in the dungeons and be transported to another strange-looking corridor on the Starship Enterprise, with a tall humanoid with pointed ears saying, highly illogical? Or even worse, is not using fiction at all, but fact. In other words, your players could find the Bermuda Triangle and what causes it. Boom, boom, boom. This man has killed 50 PCs easy. He might have done some damage. I mean, you would definitely have to be on point with your mapping, your detect spells, all your stuff. You got to have that stuff keyed in pretty well, because otherwise you can find yourself anywhere. I want to say, was it Sailors on the Starless Sea essentially takes the same principle, right? I think it's the spoilers for that, I think, but isn't at one point in the dungeon you get transported or just opens up into a giant sea that you then cross before you get to kind of the inner sanctum of the place? Am I remembering that correctly? I think that's true. Some good stuff in there, for sure. Well, let's see. Creature features. I'm trying to see if I miss. Let me just go back and see if I missed anything else. What is this? Something about Quetzalcoatl? Okay, so this is a short story that I will skip. Terrence says, damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a cartographer. Pretty much. Ryan Smith is surprised, though. You think you're on the Enterprise until Spock transforms to a D-18 ogre mages holding gems that explode when looked at. Yep, or heck, even just those orc gems. They just throw the gems at you, and then within the next round, they turn into orcs that then attack you as well. And then Brian Smith, I think, going to my Sailors of the Starless Sea, it says it's in the lower level to keep. That's what I thought. All right, so we're going to skip. What is this? The cult? All right, I'm going to kind of scan this because I want to see what else we have, but we took too much time, which is the usual for me. Feathered Serpent by Lynn Harpold. Quetzalcoatl was the name given to one of the most universally worshipped and persevering gods in all of ancient Mexico. The word means bird, quetzal, serpent, coatl, or more exactly, feathered serpent. we get some history of the feathered serpent? Is that all that is? I mean, not that that's just not cool, but let's see. Okay, so it's just basically, that's kind of neat. It's just kind of some background on Quetzalcoatl. I'm not going to read through it, but I like it. It doesn't have any stats or anything, but if you're interested in Quetzalcoatl or you want to know more about it, I think he does show up in Deities and Demigods. I don't know if the one, the one in the white box, I don't even know if that's, or the white box supplement for Deities and Demigods. I'm not sure if if it is in there. It's certainly, I'm sure, in the 1E version, the AD&D version. Creature features, we get the Remoras, which is now fairly standard creature, but makes its I'm guessing its first appearance here. The Remoras is probably the only fire-using creature that prefers the coldness of mountain areas, frozen weights, etc. These monsters come in 3 sizes, as noted, with these % chances of encountering each separate size. They can either be 6 HD, 10 HD, or 14 HD. Let's see. Terrence says a proto-monster ecology article. Yeah, kind of. This creature's unusual characteristic is that its back, from the tip of tail to head, has reddish circular protrusions, rock-like in appearance, that are heated to enormous temperatures, thus melting any non-magical weapons upon its striking the Remoras' backside. The Remoras has a tendency to flap its earthborn wings when it is close to prey. As noted, it stalks the cool to cold extremities of the outdoors. Possible encounters, it may be placed alongside the silver dragon on the encounter matrix in Eldritch Wizardry. The Matrix. All right. I like the drawing. And got percentage and layer, 20%. It bites for 3 to 36. Breathes for 3, 5, or 7 dice of fire damage. Highly magical resistance. Low intelligence. And it's neutral. It means you no harm, other than it wants to eat you. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, this is where we were. We have a press release, which I will skip. To get to a new D&D character class, in comes the Alchemist. This is by John Pickens. The prime requisite for the Alchemist is wisdom, but both wisdom and intelligence scores must exceed 12. Their alignment is neutral. Since fighting is not their normal vocation, their maximum armor class is 5. They may use only one-handed weapons, excluding magical swords, and their attack levels advance as clerics. They have the saving throws of fighters with a bonus of +2 against poison and non-magical paralyzation. They may use any potion, but only those magical items employable by all classes. See exceptions below. Psionic ability is as fighters, with body weaponry replaced by molecular agitation. The Alchemist rolls 6-sided hit dice up to level 9, getting 1 point per level after that. Alchemists must be human. All right, so there's the short of it. Let's see some more of it. Explanation of abilities. We've got Detect Poison. Allows the Alchemist to tell by explanation whether or not an item or creature is poisonous or whether a character has been poisoned. It allows the Alchemist to tell by explanation. I'm not sure what that means. Are we talking examination? Are we talking... What does that mean by explanation? I'm not sure, but okay. Whatever. Putting that aside, they can detect poison. No limits. They just need to have it explained to them. I'm not sure that part, but they can detect poisons. Brian Smith says, Alchemists in history tried to turn urine, among other things, into actual gold. That's the main factoid I remember. Whenever I hear Alchemist, I imagine a character trying to do that. It's a curse. I don't remember. I don't know if I heard urine to gold, though I don't doubt it, but it was definitely lead to gold, and maybe that's just in the more romanticized version. I think they were trying to turn anything they could into gold. There's this idea that I think the Philosopher's Stone, which was some material that could... It was like an exotic material that could do stuff. I think maybe that was a key to turning things to gold. Or I know in Harry Potter, it was the keys to immortality, or at least from the movie. I don't know if in other lore it was like that. Lead and gold are very close. I think, what is it, just 1 electron or something off in the periodic tables? So I think the lead we have tons of. Gold obviously is always valuable, so turning lead to gold. Terrence says, puts a new spin on the old golden shower. Gross, Terrence. We don't need to go there. This is a family program. But what kind of family? I'm Will not say. So they get detect poison. Now they get neutralization poison. This will eliminate the effects of poison up to twice the alchemist's own level. This may be used once per character per time poison and will not revive a character killed by poison. So if they're poisoned but they're not yet dead, alchemists can help them out. They could neutralize paralyzation. This cancels the effects of paralyzation caused by creatures up to twice the alchemist level. It will not work against paralyzation caused by devices. So only caused by creatures. This feels like the white mage or some of those mages in those Final Fantasy Tactics games that had all the not debuffs, but they could just remove debuffs. Identify poison. This allows the alchemist to correctly identify a potion. Oh, sorry, not poison. Identify potion. This allows the alchemist to correctly identify a potion. If a potion of delusion is not identified, check again to see if it is identified incorrectly. This may also be used to test for acids or similar compounds. As the alchemist advances, he gains the following special abilities. Just looking in the chat. Brian Smith says, just missing that secret ingredient, and it turns out it is P. Right. Exactly. All right, so level 1. So those are just things they can do. Not supernatural abilities. These are just, this is kind of just their part of their just knowledge. They can neutralize poisons, they can neutralize paralyzation, naturally cause paralyzation, and then they can identify potions and compounds, and you could probably stretch that out if you want to include chemicals and other things. Okay, am I back now? I lost. Something happened. Looks like something happened. I hit refresh and I'm back. All right, where did I lose off? So okay, so I'm just gonna, not sure where I got lost, but Alchemist special abilities. Level 1, ability to read languages, 80% chance, 1 attempt per week per item. Ability to prepare poisons and drugs. Ability to prepare a potion of delusion. Level 3, ability to prepare potions and acids. Level 5, ability to prepare blade venom. Level 7, ability to prepare to read magic and hence scrolls as thieves. And then level 9, ability to prepare potions from samples. Ooh, that's a good one. So they can, potions, alchemists can make brew potions of a strength level equal to their own experience. Each strength level costs 50 gold pieces in 1 day. We don't know what strength levels do, though, but that's interesting. Spencer says they're kind of digging this alchemist class. It's not bad. It's not bad. They got some names, which I always like the names for the levels. Experience points totals. We got our percentage chances, and then potions kind of follows a spell. Pretty similar to a spell advancement, but it's potions instead. Is there anything else? We got more. Drugs as poisons, but double cost. Saving throw versus poison at -2. If failed, the victim is unconscious for 4 hours minimum A successful Constitution/Resurrection throw is required to wake up. Check each hour. Brian Smith says, it feels like the Alchemist came from the I want to make potions. Why wasn't there ever other things like a class that makes gold or a class that creates spells? I think they meant, I mean, back in the day, right? People were making spells. People at Gygax's table, or I think whoever's his son and some of the other characters were those magic users making their own spells. I guess for whatever reason, they just never mechanically made anything about it. It was just kind of totally left up to you, which is maybe a shame. I don't know if I need a whole class over just making spells, but I can see your point. If the Alchemist whole thing is making potions, and isn't there someone that's just making spells? Mayhaps. I'm not sure. Acids, let's see. So we got drugs. There's kind of powerful poisons, but they just knock you out. It's like a sleeping potion, basically. Potions, these require 200 gold pieces and 1 week per level to produce. Research costs are the same as magic users for spells, but having a sample allows 9th level alchemists to produce the potion, even if the potion has not been developed. A sample allows an alchemist to able to research a potion to add 40% to his chances of success. Where there must have been research rules somewhere because I see them showing them here, but I'm not sure where they are and where they went. I'll have to look that up. Because now that they mention research, I'm like, oh yeah, there were some kind of research rules. I just don't remember them. I wonder if they show back up in the AD&D DMG or somewhere. Or if we have to go back and... Was it in the first level, first Dragon, or was it in one of the... forget the name of the magazine that was before Dragon. Maybe it was in one of those. Acids. These are produced by the gallon and do 1 6-sided die damage per level strength. These cost 100 gold pieces and 1 day per level. 1 day per level of strength. Maximum strength equals the alchemist level. From 3rd level, the alchemist has a 15% chance of neutralizing half acid damage. Providing the victim survives, this chance increases 5% for each additional level. We get their potions. Heroism, giant strength, the animal control, water breathing. They're basically spells. Or you get stuff like flash, pellets, purification powder, dust of sneezing, oil of slipperiness. Stuff like that. Spencer says, Luke Gygax famously ran the character Melf and came up with the idea for the spells of that namesake. Yeah, I think that's been true. I think of all Melf, Tensor, all those were players come up with stuff. Brian Smith says, not saying that would be a fun class for venturing, but if the alchemist/artificer can exist, maybe those other aspects hard baked into the game could find a space. Yeah, it could be. I mean, they could see it'd be cool to have almost as a hireling or someone a retainer that you have at your home that you could have researching spells for you while you're out. I see what you're saying. There's probably just not been much call for it. Someone who just makes spells. And we're going to get explanations for the spell potions, which I'm going to skip. We get some bits on... here we got about the Philosopher Stone, which you can use to do some transmutations. Example on poisons. So this is doing it's kind of changing poisons because we're not going to instant kill. We're going from instant kill to something else. Basically a level of a poison level. I'll just run an example here. A level 7 fighter is bitten several times by a 3 hit die poisonous spider. Assume 2 bites and 1 missed saving throw. The fighter is moving at slow speed. If he's bitten again and misses saving throw, he is dead. But in any case, the 4th bite will kill him. So let me just go back to what that means. If the poison level is less, let's see. If the level of the poison is equal or greater than the number of dice the victim has, the victim must save his poison or die in 3 melee rounds. So if you are a level 1 fighter and you've been bit by a 3 hit die poisonous spider, you're dead. You have to make a save or you're dead, as normal. If it's less, and then they have some gradations. If it's more, then you get that kind of fighter example. They are more than 3 hit die. The fighter is level 7. Poison spider is 3 hit die. So now they have some odds, but I think there's a cumulative poison effect. Terrence, was there an I Love Lucy joke in there? Vitamidave Gimin potion. I loved I Love Lucy back in the day, but I have not seen it. It's been so long since I've seen I Love Lucy. And then you can get some blade. You can put on your blade venom, and we got some other stuff. And then we got, look at that, D&D option weapon damage. Does this mean that the Greyhawk supplement is not out yet? I don't know. I don't know the dates for the Greyhawk supplement. But there we just get, oh, we get this concept of normal and expert. How does someone... The following... Oh, okay, so nope, this is post-Greyhawk. The following rules are designed to replace the damage system introduced in Greyhawk. For every 3 levels a fighter advances, or every 4 levels a thief advances, they may master 1 additional weapon and score the increased damage shown on the expert column. Thieves are limited to expertise in sword, dagger, a combination of these, or the sling. Instead of increasing expertise in 1 weapon, a fighter or thief with a dex of 13 or better may take a combination of 2 one-handed weapons. Each combination is unique and must be clearly recorded. In melee, the wielder may strike once with each weapon or once with either weapon and count as shielded. Oh, that's kind of cool. So this is kind of neat. So normally, here's the normal damage. Fighters and thieves, to a lesser extent, can level get up to expertise and get the expert damage. And then they can also do this funky thing with kind of a dual wielding thrown in there. 2-handed swords require a strength of 16 and a dexterity of 9. The military pick or the battle axe may be wielded in one hand if strength is 16 and dex is 9. That's cool. It's a little bit different. I kind of like the idea of the expertise that you can... you basically go from 2d6 to 2d12. 2-handed sword, you go from 2d6 to 3d6. Some of them are not quite so. This goes from... Halberd goes from 1d10 to 2d6. Oh, it's the one where... Okay, so Terrence explaining his I Love Lucy reference. It's the one where she gets drunk filming a commercial for health food juice. That's vaguely familiar, Terrence, but I could not really place it. If you hadn't placed it, I would never have gotten it. Oh, here it is. Gods, demigods, and heroes. Just what I was wondering about, whether Quetzalcoatl makes the cut. And that is it. So look at that. Ran a little bit long, but we made it through. Vitamina Vegamin. There we go. That was Dragon number 2. I think definitely... Sorry I didn't get through Quetzalcoatl. That probably was a real good little read, but I don't have the time. But I appreciated... I definitely like The Alchemist. I think... I feel like you could kind of... There's probably some things to tweak in here depending on your system and whatnot, but I think that's pretty darn cool. And you definitely get some more stuff on poisons and potions and that kind of thing. I kind of like this, the weapon damage. Doing it and allowing a certain class of the expertise, the Remorhaz. Always nice to meet you, Remorhaz. And then the dungeons were cool. There was definitely some fun stuff. That skeleton, that's kind of the bones. I'm definitely gonna do something with that. For sure. Those are definitely the highlights, I guess. And there you have it. That is the Dragon. Volume 1, Number 2, August 1976. Brian Smith will never forget the absolute menace of this writer with his orc gems. Yeah, he's got some doozies in there. You got to be prepped for his game. You definitely got to be prepped for his game. All right, folks, if you give a thumbs up on your way out, that would be awesome. If you find yourself in here and not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. You'll just get notified if anything new comes up that I do. Otherwise, folks, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on. I'll talk to you later. And yes, Terrence, it is a nice cup.